May 22nd.
And now, it's Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews. Brought to you by J. Allen Toyota, Gulf Coast Business Supply, and AGJ Systems and Networks on SuperTalk 103.1 FM.
That celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such an amazing place to live, work, and play. We have quite a show today. I look forward to visiting with our guests. I want to share one quick thing with me. Look, I almost didn't read this, but Kyle really encouraged me to. I'll put this on Kyle. But here's what it says. Someone posted this. Yesterday, my husband thought he saw a cockroach in the kitchen. He sprayed everything down and cleaned thoroughly. Today, I'm putting the cockroach in the bathroom. I thought that was pretty good. That's pretty good. If you're a guy, you can really appreciate that. Kyle, right? You encouraged it.
I'd leave it, though.
Yeah, no doubt. So, look, we have a special visit from Richard Cross with SuperTalk Mississippi Sports. And then in the second segment, Jeff Duncan from The Athletic's going to join Richard and me, and we're going to have sort of a free-for-all as it relates to sports in the world today. Really, we can talk about just about anything. But Richard, let me turn to you and just say good morning. How are you doing?
Ricky, it's great to be with you. I've heard so many good things about you and about the program and kind of the reach that it's got on the Gulf Coast. So it's good to spend some time with you today.
It's amazing that we haven't really had the opportunity to meet. But if we didn't have a pandemic, obviously our paths would have crossed somewhere along the line, that is for sure. But Richard, what I want to do for listeners who don't know you and probably have heard you on the SEC network or ESPN doing play-by-play, you've got an incredible past. You've always been super focused on sports, and you had a vision that ultimately led you to your current role at SuperTalk Mississippi Sports. But I want to tell your story, and we'll kind of start from the beginning. Is that good with you?
That works for me. I'll go wherever you want to go, Ricky.
Well, I was interested to find the story that was written about you on hottytoddy.com. And the headline said, Oxford's Richard Cross, a man for all sports seasons. And I didn't know this about you, actually. It's always interesting to learn new things about someone. But you were starting quarterback at Oxford. And so you've always been kind of a sports fanatic, I guess.
Yeah, I've kind of loved it my entire life. Was not good enough to really continue a career post high school, but some of the greatest memories that I've got are from high school football. I played baseball in high school, made the varsity team my sophomore year, and our head baseball coach at the time decided that we needed to have a pretty frank conversation. He said, "Richard, I'm just going to be real honest with you. I don't see you playing until you're a senior." And I said, okay, that kind of stung a little bit. And I decided, well, I might be better off being on the golf team instead. So in high school, I played on the golf team at Oxford High School and then played quarterback as well on the football team. Started my senior year. We finished that season 8-4. There was a pretty good Clarksdale team that we ran into in the first round of the playoffs that year, but had some teammates that were really successful, went on to play college football at the Division I level, at the junior college level. I could have kind of walked on at the Division II level, but I just decided that maybe I would be better suited to hang out here in Oxford and go to school at Ole Miss. And it's a decision that has worked out in the long run.
Yeah, you got a degree in broadcast journalism, but if you think about it, you ended up going there. Ole Miss has been in your blood probably since you were born in some way or another, huh?
Yeah, we moved to Oxford when I was 8 years old. My mom was from Coffeyville, which is a small town. It's about 40 miles or so south of Oxford. And her dad had Alzheimer's. We lived in West Tennessee. That's where I was born. So she wanted to get closer to her parents. My mom did. And Coffeyville wasn't really an option for us. So we landed in Oxford. My mom worked for the university. My dad at the time worked in the pharmacy business and has stayed in the medical community for years and years. And it turned out to be a great place to grow up. And I kind of feel fortunate. It's a college town that's not a huge college town, but feels bigger than it is. There's a lot to offer in Oxford, great public schools. And it's where my wife, Jane, and I have kind of decided this is the spot for us to raise our family. And so this has been home for a long time, getting a little bit longer every day now. I've now been here for over 30 years.
Wow, that's incredible. Look, as you can imagine, I went to Southern Miss. most of my family went to Southern Miss. I have one son that went to Auburn. I have a son who went to law school at Ole Miss, and that actually brought us to Oxford on a pretty regular basis while he was in law school. But I have a lot of friends who went to Ole Miss, and despite challenges along the way from a sports point of view, the fact is they have a lot of dedicated fans, don't they?
Yeah, there's no question. Passionate fans. I think probably we might ease into a baseball conversation at some point a little bit later on. Baseball fans in the state of Mississippi, whether you're talking about Mississippi State or Ole Miss or Southern Miss, so incredibly passionate. And, you go back to that kind of magical 2014, 2015, 2016 season, and Ole Miss fans had waited for that so very long. That kind of culminated with the win in the Sugar Bowl against Oklahoma State at the end of the 2016 season. Passionate is the way to describe it. Frustrated probably is a good way to describe it some of the time as well. But you get to enjoy the highs a whole lot more when you've experienced the lows. I don't know what Alabama fans do. They don't know what it's like to have a low. It's just all highs, all championships, all the time. So it's a great place. A lot of special people here. I've been fortunate to work with a lot of really good people at the university level and at the athletics department level as well, and really wouldn't trade it for anything.
Well, you've had the opportunity to sort of cut your teeth on women's basketball. If you kind of go through that path, you tried a couple of different things along the way. But what was sort of inspirational about your story is this reality that you decided to be this young entrepreneur. You were going to figure out a way to do what you love to do, and it sort of set the stage to landing where you are today. Take us a little bit on that journey.
All right, so I'm going to rewind back to high school. So I had a journalism teacher in high school named Beth Fitz, who she became the president of the Mississippi Scholastic Press Association and just cared so very much about our students. And the majority of the class and the program was print-based. We had a newspaper and a magazine that ran through the school, but there was this one unit, I think it was in the fourth 9 weeks of the school year, where we had a broadcast unit. And I had known for a while that, I think broadcasting is what I'm interested in, but it just clicked. And there were some opportunities for me at Oxford High School, probably because of playing sports that presented themselves, whether it was, the public address announcer for the girls and boys basketball teams, or doing some local access television work for basketball and some baseball stuff along the way, that really kind of lit that fire that never went out. After I graduated high school, so the following fall, when I was a freshman at Ole Miss, I started working with the SuperTalk family. It wasn't SuperTalk the way it is now at the time, but was doing local high school football on the radio, first as a color analyst and then as a play-by-play announcer. Through that, kind of developed a relationship with David Kellum, who for over 40 years has been the baseball play-by-play voice. He's been the football play-by-play voice on the radio for Ole Miss since 1989, I think. Kind of grew a friendship there, and David has been a mentor of mine. And so when I was, I guess it was the spring of my freshman year, maybe the spring of my sophomore year, I started filling in for him some on Ole Miss baseball. You get to the end of the basketball season, and there's the conflict. You got basketball and baseball happening at the same time. And so that was kind of the entree into that. A couple of years later, I started working full-time on baseball while I was still in school. And then the opportunity presented itself. Play-by-play, I knew was what my passion was. Even though I was kind of working as a color analyst with David or as a secondary play-by-play announcer, that's what I wanted to do. And so when the opportunity to be a women's basketball play-by-play announcer on the radio presented itself, I certainly jumped at that. And that was a really cool time because Carol Ross had made the transition from head coach at Florida back to her alma mater, Ole Miss. From a recruiting standpoint, they got some good players, and that was a really cool run where they made multiple NCAA tournaments, kind of capped off in Arminty Price's senior season with a run to the Elite Eight. So it was a great experience, and it was, Ricky, you've heard people in broadcast talk about this before. There's nothing that you can do to get better other than broadcasting, other than reps. You've just got to do it and do it and do it. I'll give you one quick funny story about women's basketball. I make a conscious effort not to be too hard on officials. I wasn't always like that, though. I was doing a women's college basketball game. It was an Ole Miss game, and my phone rang, and I hadn't had a cell phone for all that long at that point. And I look, and it's my mom, and I know that my mom knows what I'm doing right now. She wouldn't be calling me in the middle of a broadcast if something wasn't wrong. So it's in a commercial break. So I was like, Mom, what's wrong? She said, would you please stop complaining about the officials? That sounds terrible. And I said, you can't call me in the middle of a broadcast to tell me that. I'll talk to you later. I love you. I hung up. But that resonated with me. If my mom's going to call and say it's that bad, she was going to be honest with me. And so it was a lesson that I think I learned early on. But, it's all about experience and growing along the way.
And you really, really did your reps. And you're right. I felt the same way when I started Coast Vue. I said, man, I'm not a radio guy. And they just encouraged me to have conversations that, like I'm sitting at the dinner table and just master the ability to convey a dinner conversation with someone, and people will enjoy it because you have this opportunity to focus on people. Hey, look, when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Richard Cross, and Jeff Duncan from The Athletic is going to join us, and it ought to be a terrific conversation. We'll see you after this break.
Coast Vue on SuperTalk 103.1 is brought to you by J. Allen Toyota on I-10 exit 38 Gulfport. See all the incredible inventory at allentoyota.com. And remember, when you think Toyota, think J. Allen Toyota.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's J. Allen at J. Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the J. Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the J. Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport, or on allentoyota.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visits.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
If Alexa's part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices.
Local cancer patients need your support. Make plans to attend the Ribbon Walk, Saturday, May 22nd at the Town Green in Long Beach. Registration begins at 7 and the walk, run, and roll begins at 8. Don't forget the Doggy Dash. Lots of prizes, trophies, medals, and giveaways. Come and support Pink Hearts Fund and the Memorial Foundation Oncology Fund. Everyone is invited to this fun and safe event. Go to pinkheartfunds.org for registration information. The Ribbon Walk, May 22nd.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, CasinoRadio1063.com.
His love for the coast is why he's here. It's Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast View. You know, one of the benefits of me having the opportunity to join the SuperTalk Mississippi family is that I have gotten the opportunity to meet some incredible people, from Gerard to Paul to Steve Azar, and people like Richard Cross. Richard Cross is an incredibly talented sports guy. If you haven't paid attention to the shows here on SuperTalk Mississippi Media, you should really tune in, especially if you like SEC football or baseball or basketball. I mean, they really they talk about a lot of things. And in fact, I was mentioning to Richard off the air that I've heard him talk about sort of the state of affairs in the state that have nothing to do with sports. And he's extremely well read when it comes to stuff like that. He's a very good thinker. And he's got a great voice, incidentally. You'll see that here shortly. But coming back to you, Richard, it is a great company to be a part of. We're really lucky. One of the reasons I decided after being retired for 4.5 months to come back and do this hour show each day was because I really like the people who are engaged in this company. And it's rare that you find privately owned companies with a vision like Steve has, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, I think vision is a good way to describe it. You know, you look at the state of Mississippi, you're talking about a population of about 3 million people, you know, give or take 2.8 to 3.2 in a, you know, given census year. And that's smaller than major markets that stand alone all by themselves. And so the only way to create a major market in Mississippi was to tie the entire state together, and through some wheeling and dealing and some growth and some risks along the way, Steve's been able to pull that off. Obviously, when we were able to add the Gulf Coast station, really kind of tied the entire state together. And I think it's cool too, Ricky. I mean, you guys can probably speak to this better. For so long, it feels like the Mississippi Gulf Coast is almost like its own entity, and then there's the rest of the state of Mississippi. And there's so much rich history and passion and food and culture and everything that happens on the Gulf Coast. It needs to be a part of the entire state of Mississippi. And I know it's a long way from DeSoto County to Gulfport, or, you know, Biloxi to Iuka, but there's so much good that happens in Mississippi. It's nice for us all to be one.
There's no doubt about it. And, you know, one of the reasons that Coast View, I think, has gained such a good audience is that we're focusing on the kind of people that it takes to make a region like coastal Mississippi tick. And I spend a lot of time talking about it being an economic engine for the rest of the state. I mean, it's really important to the rest of the state. And the rest of the state is important to Mississippi. So I spend more time talking about what's going on in the Golden Triangle, what's going on in places like the Delta, and why it's important for us to have that conversation so we can bring us all together. So, just even in your answer just then, you went beyond sports. You have a sense of that vision, and it's good to hear you say that. Hey, let's do this now. Let's bring Jeff Duncan into the conversation. My partner in crime, we used to work together at NOLA Media Group, TimesPicayune, NOLA.com. He's here every Friday to join me for a conversation about sports. He works for The Athletic. He's covered the Saints longer than anyone else in history. And I've actually been looking forward to having Jeff on and Richard on at the same time so we could kind of have a free-for-all about sports. You were actually just doing some book signing, huh, Jeff?
Yeah, I was up in Jackson, had a book signing up in the Jackson area, and was just saying off the air just how much Jackson's grown since the last time I've been there. You know, it's been a while, and have fond memories of when they had training camp there, the New Orleans Saints, back in the first years of the Sean Payton, Drew Brees era. They were all there at Millsaps College there in Jackson. So it was good to get back. It's a great town and a lot of great people up there, a lot of great sports fans. So really, really fun to get back up and visit with everyone.
And you were mentioning, you said you live in Oxford, though, right, Richard? And so you get to Jackson from time to time, but your base of operation is Oxford.
Yeah, I'm based in Oxford, and you know, I'm excited to visit with Jeff as well. You know, so much of what we do on Sports Talk Mississippi is collegiate based, and for obvious reasons. College fans in Mississippi with Ole Miss and Mississippi State and Southern Miss, and I almost feel like there's a little bit of bleed over of LSU fans on the coast. I don't know if that's a bad rumor or if that's a true thing or not, but that's where we spend the majority of our time. But outside of that, it's the Saints, because there's so many people that live in Mississippi who the Saints are their team. And so I'm excited to visit with Jeff. Maybe learn something today.
Well, Richard, one of the things that Jeff has done such a good job at is focusing on what he calls the Gulf South. The Saints know this too, that you can't be a small market NFL team like they are, even the Pelicans for that matter, without branching out. So the Gulf South is kind of their thing. Jeff really, he understood that to begin with, but his book has really given him an opportunity to see how many fans he has in coastal Mississippi. Talk about that, Jeff.
Well, there's no doubt about it. I mean, we saw that when we were at training camp. There's a reason the Saints had training camp in Millsaps. They understood how many fans they have in Mississippi. They've always tried to reach out to that part of the Gulf South. And I think I mentioned to you on the program before how an NFL executive told me you never had to worry about the New Orleans Saints leaving New Orleans. I know there's a lot of media coverage of that, but he drew a line from Atlanta to Houston and Dallas and said, this is the most football crazy part of the country. It's the SEC West, basically. And there's no other part of this nation that cares more about football than that area, the Gulf South, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. And if you pulled out New Orleans from the NFL map, you'd have a large swath of football crazy fans with no team to follow. And I think that applies to the SEC as well as professional sports, and certainly the Saints know that.
You get that, don't you, Richard?
Yeah, I do. And it's interesting because I think there's a Major League Baseball example of that as well, because the Atlanta Braves, there are a couple of things that work for the Braves. So they sit alone in Atlanta. The closest Major League Baseball team to Atlanta is Cincinnati, which it surprises people sometimes when they hear it. It's actually a little bit closer to Cincinnati than it is to St. Louis. And so some of the massive following, now some of it was TBS Superstation, and every game was on, and it was across the entire country. But there was an entire region where that was their team. And I feel like in kind of the same way, that's the Saints. I mean, you got North Mississippi. I've got friends who are Saints season ticket holders that live here in Oxford, and they'll do an Ole Miss game on Saturday, and they'll get up early on Sunday morning, and they'll drive to New Orleans, and they'll do a Saints game on Sunday. And it's not just one or two people. I mean, I'm not saying that it's hundreds and hundreds, but it's, a handful of people that do that. And that's the team that, as local broadcast stuff, when we've had that, if you don't have Sunday ticket, the Saints were the game that you always got, and they are the game that you get. That might have gotten peeled into a little bit when Eli Manning went to the New York Giants. All of a sudden, there were a lot of New York football fans that lived in north central Mississippi. But the Saints have kind of always been the home team. And it's been so cool to have some players from Ole Miss, from Mississippi State, that you can follow that have been part of the Saints. I guess chief among them, Deuce McAllister.
For sure. And you actually been working on a story around Arch Manning, huh, Jeff?
Yeah, I actually talked to Archie, his grandfather, just a couple of days ago, who, by the way, just had his 72nd birthday on Wednesday. Hard to believe Archie Manning's 72 years old, but 50 years ago he was drafted number 2 overall in the 1971 NFL draft. This is amazing. That's the last first or second round draft pick the Saints have used on a quarterback. They've not ever drafted one higher since then in 50 years. And Archie obviously changed the course of New Orleans sports history by moving to New Orleans, staying here, electing to stay here. And of course, his progeny, have made them the first family of football. And now his grandson, who's named after him, is coming along here at Newman High School here in suburban New Orleans, and is going to be probably the number 1 quarterback in the country in 2 years. He's only going to be a junior this fall. And the hype machine around Arch and the recruitment of Arch Manning is already starting to heat up. It's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
Do you hear a lot about that too, Richard?
Yeah, there's no question. Arch, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago, kind of released a list of places that he was going to visit this summer. And there were a handful of stops, and they're the high-profile programs that you would expect, Alabama and Texas and Clemson. And, I think he said he wanted to visit Ohio State. And Ole Miss fans, there were some that were like, hold on a second. Is he not going to visit Ole Miss this summer? And you want to go, hold on. This is kind of a fact-finding mission. I don't know how many facts there are to find for Arch Manning about Oxford and Ole Miss. I think His family still has a house here, and they're back and forth. What an unbelievable family. I guess a second ago when I said Deuce McAllister, chief among them in terms of former Ole Miss players, that meant aside from Archie Manning. I hope that kind of goes without saying.
For sure. When's your story going to come out, Jeff?
We're not sure yet. It's going to be in the next 2 weeks. We're timing it to the June 1 is a big date on the recruiting calendar. It's the first day that recruits and their families can actually go out and visit campuses. If you think about it, guys, I mean, they haven't been able to do that in a year. You haven't been able to actually get on campus as a recruit. So Arch Manning's never stepped foot on some of these schools' campuses like Clemson or Texas. He's going to go get to meet the coaches in person, and that's going to be important to them in their journey here, is getting the right fit. Like Richard said, they know Ole Miss. I mean, he was at Ole Miss's camp when Matt Luke was the coach in the 6th grade. He knows full well what that program can offer him.
Well. Welcome. Let me tell you, I've enjoyed the conversation. When we come back, we're going to continue the conversation with Richard Cross and Jeff Duncan. And there's so much ground to cover. We'll see you after this.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast Vue on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to SuperTalkMSGulfCoast.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking very hard-to-find PPE items to make our community a safer place. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. They were even sending thousands of dollars of PPE supplies free to local schools in need with help from other local business leaders. The next time your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider a local company that supports your ball teams, cheerleaders, and area homeless. Consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply, the local guys that keep your prices fair, your service and selection excellent, and your health our business. Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk.fm has a new look and is more informative than ever with expanded Mississippi news coverage, the latest Mississippi weather, Mississippi sports, and of course, the talk that's important to you. Every show, every podcast, and every late-breaking story. Constantly updating the news the second new developments happen. All in one place. The new SuperTalk.fm.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, CasinoRadio1063.com.
Hey, South Mississippi, the future has arrived. It's 2021, and at J. Allen Toyota, we're here to serve you. Want to let you know that we have Allen's lifetime warranty on every new Toyota we sell. That also comes with Toyota Care. That's 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. We have a great rental department. Our service department's ready to take care of your current vehicle. We're rolling out J. Allen certified pre-owned for 2021. You got to come to I-10 exit 38 right here in Gulfport. You're going to love what we have to offer. When you think Toyota, think Allen Toyota.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. Talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer, songwriter, has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because, I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard. And,
wow.
All this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute.
Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Whether you're brand new to the DIY craze or a seasoned veteran, the Handyman Show has something for you. Buddy Slowick shares tips and tricks on everything from odd jobs to complete build-outs, from small home repairs to serious construction. So no matter if you're at the master carpenter level or not quite sure how to use a level, the Handyman Show answers your questions with a healthy dose of humor and some great music too. Saturdays, 10 to noon on SuperTalk Mississippi and on SuperTalk TV.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Local cancer patients need your support. Make plans to attend the Ribbon Walk, Saturday, May 22nd at the Town Green in Long Beach. Registration begins at 7 and the walk, run, and roll begins at 8. Don't forget the Doggy Dash. Lots of prizes, trophies, medals, and giveaways. Come and support Pink Hearts Fund and the Memorial Foundation Oncology Fund. Everyone is invited to this fun and safe event. Go to pinkheartfunds.org for registration information. The Ribbon Walk, May 22nd.
And now, it's Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews. Brought to you by J. Allen Toyota, Gulf Coast Business Supply, and AGJ Systems and Networks on SuperTalk 103.1 FM.
Welcome back to Coast View. I have Richard Cross from SuperTalk Mississippi Sports and Jeff Duncan from The Athletic. It's been great, introducing you two and having a general conversation about things, sports. Jeff, as you think about, let's talk about college for a second. And try to keep your sort of your focus on what you refer to as maybe the southern part of the SEC. What do you think some of the big stories were this year?
Well, I think just the fact that they were able to play college football in the pandemic and get away with that schedule, that ambitious schedule. I think a lot of people didn't think it would happen. We know the Pac-12 certainly didn't think so, and I think the SEC did a tremendous job in navigating unprecedented situation, and we were able to have a season, even though without fans in a lot of venues. I think it helped. We know how passionate SEC fans are and how much those programs mean to their communities, and I think just having that distraction, the entertainment value of having college football meant a lot to a lot of people during a very difficult time.
I think you really kind of picked up on it in a big way. It's interesting because you cover the Saints, you comment and do some coverage of the Pelicans. You're very interested in LSU and what's happening. I think Richard's right. LSU does definitely come over into Mississippi, especially the coast. So your paths cross in that regard. This is your world, though, isn't it, Richard? You spend a lot of time in this world. If you look back on the year, what do you think some of the big stories were?
I mean, you've got the on-the-field stuff with the remarkable run that Alabama had, and year one for Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, and year one for Mike Leach at Mississippi State, and the season that LSU had where it was really bad, and then it kind of got a little better as things went along, and we'll see how important this season is coming up for LSU on the field, but the off-the-field stories dominated, and there's just no way around it. I mean, Jeff made a great point. We spent that window from middle of March until middle of June, maybe late June, asking the question, is there going to be a college football season? And for us at Sports Talk Mississippi, it's like, this is our lifeblood. This is what we do. I think we kind of grew a little bit as broadcasters per se, as opposed to just sports guys during that time, because, you had to be a little more creative. You had to work a little harder. But to get back to that point, even though it was 25% capacity, some places didn't have any fans there. It was funny. I thought football felt more normal once we actually got there with 25% capacity, where you've got, 15,000 people in a 60,000 seat stadium, than basketball. Basketball was what was weird for me. It was indoors. You had a smaller attendance. It didn't feel right in person. And I thought it didn't look right on television. I think so much of the environment for basketball is driven by the crowd and that kind of collegial feel. And you're right there on top of the court. And just seeing empty venues and kind of no atmosphere. I thought basketball was hard this year. And thank goodness we've gotten back, at least in the state of Mississippi, to full stadiums during baseball season. It has been special this spring.
That's a great point, Richard. I mean, college basketball in a small arena setting, there's nothing like that electricity. Conference game, I mean, the possessions, it feels so heightened because of the energy of the crowd. Everything reverberates off the roof. It's just special. And without that, it feels almost like a pickup game in an intramural setting. It's not the same.
You know what's interesting about what Richard said? It's not just the stuff that was off the court or off the field. You guys had to, you had to work a little harder for sure. And this goes back to the point I was making a few minutes ago about you, Richard, your ability to sort of speak on the topics of the day, the news topics of the day that were not necessarily about sports. That tendency that you have actually served you really well as a sportscaster, because, coming back to you, Jeff, you've been on Pulitzer teams before. You've covered stuff that was dire, that had absolutely nothing to do with sports. But I know you to just be a current events kind of guy who's paying attention to news in general. But the pandemic and what you had to learn about the pandemic and the focus you had to have on making sure the advice and the comments you made about the pandemic as it relates to how to stay safe and issues about the vaccines or when to wear a mask or not, you had to really pay attention to those things, because you could have, in your case, Jeff, either here on this show or the other stuff that you do in broadcasting or in your writing, you could have given bad advice. Same thing for you, Richard. So, Jeff, that was a big part of your prep this year, wasn't it?
Well, no question. And I mean, look, it influenced all of global society. I mean, this was a global event, unprecedented. We're hopefully never going to experience anything like this in our lifetimes. And it reminded me a little bit of covering Katrina when, I was a Saints beat writer when Katrina hit. And my day-to-day world was revolving around the Saints and who was going to make the roster in training camp. And it was so myopic, my view at that time. And it had to be as a beat writer. And then immediately it was just destroyed. That whole prism was destroyed. And you realize nobody cared about the New Orleans Saints over the next few weeks. People were worried about their lives, their homes, and much bigger priorities. That came back to me during this pandemic, where you worried about your health, your family's health. Sports became less important, especially in the initial 6 months as we were trying to figure this thing out. So that does give a perspective, I think, to sports, where it fits into our lifestyles and our culture. It is an important part of our lives, but it's just a part, right? And it's more entertainment than it is the lifeblood. Even though it is important to us in the South here, you do realize where it fits in the pecking order when something like this comes along.
Jeff, Richard's right. Richard, Jeff is right in that the pandemic brought everything back into focus about what in life is ultimately important, and everyone who's listening to you is going through that same kind of metamorphosis in the midst of this pandemic. What more can you add to that?
Well, from a messaging standpoint, and first of all, I appreciate what you said about kind of being well-rounded. I've always just been interested in people and interested in stories that kind of capture the imagination. Have been a news junkie, a political junkie. It's a little harder to do that right now, just because it's so divisive everywhere you look. And but yeah, I do think, and not to disagree with what Jeff said, and certainly not to belittle the idea of maybe it puts some things in perspective. I think it also reminded us of how important sports is for the psyche of our particular region of the country. And I'm not saying that people's identity is necessarily wrapped up in the team they cheer for or the sport that they're most passionate about, but people choose to use that as an outlet for them. It's their escape. It's their, I got to grind it out. Whether I'm working at Ingalls or I'm at a law firm or a doctor's office or I'm in construction, I got to grind it out Monday through Friday, from the time the sun comes up until the time the sun comes down. When I get to Saturday, I want and I need my college football. When I get to Sunday, I need the NFL because that's my escape. And there are people in other parts of the country that go, oh, that's ridiculous that you would care that much about sports. But it's no more ridiculous than somebody in California who lives for the weekend so they can get on a surfboard, or somebody in Colorado who lives for the weekend so they can get away to the mountains to ski or to hike. It's what so many people here love. I think that's why it was so important for us to get back as quickly as we could to what it felt like before the pandemic.
Yeah, Jeff talked about that a lot during the pandemic, about this relief valve. It was important to get sports back up again, and you felt super passionate about that, didn't you, Jeff?
Well, no question about it. I mean, it's part of our lifestyle here in the South. Sports certainly have a higher priority, I think, here, especially football, than other parts of the country. And it's not just it's an entertainment vehicle for us, but I also think it's, as Richard said, an escape from what was a very difficult time, much like the way Katrina, when it hit and people were here rebuilding homes, rebuilding their lives, they needed something to serve as a distraction during that difficult time. And let's face it, the pandemic was similar in that regard, and that we were all cooped up in our houses. We were starving for something that would give us a sense of normalcy in our lives, and certainly sports is a big part of that. And without it, I don't know what we would have done, to be honest with you.
And Ricky, just to kind of add to that, I mean, if you think about some of the tragic events in our country's history, whether you're talking about Katrina like Jeff was, if you want to go all the way back to 2001, sports has provided the catharsis after the fact. There's obviously an immediate, whether you want to call it grieving period or recovery period, where you've got to make sure things are safe and you got to make sure that people are taken care of and basic needs are taken care of. But I think about the return of college football, the return of the NFL, the return of the World Series back in 2001, and how big of a moment that was, where people all over the United States, despite their differences, came together that said, this helps us recover.
We had a common enemy. Although social media and politics and all that tried to divide us during these moments. Sports is sort of the ultimate opportunity for us to come together. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the baseball season and sort of how that's going, and then what do they look for in the months and weeks, or months and years ahead as it relates to sports here in Mississippi. We'll be back after this break.
You can also listen live to SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on your Amazon Alexa devices. Once you've enabled the skill, just say, Alexa, open SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Local cancer patients need your support. Make plans to attend the Ribbon Walk, Saturday, May 22nd at the Town Green in Long Beach. Registration begins at 7 and the walk, run, and roll begins at 8. Don't forget the Doggy Dash. Lots of prizes, trophies, medals, and giveaways. Come and support Pink Hearts Fund and the Memorial Foundation Oncology Fund. Everyone is invited to this fun and safe event. Go to pinkheartfunds.org for registration information. The Ribbon Walk, May 22nd.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport, or on allentoyota.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi, your new home for the Ben Shapiro Show.
We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth.
The most electrifying national talk show on air today.
We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Ben Shapiro, brutally breaking down the issues of the day.
From politics to pop culture, we take a look at all of it. So don't miss out.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We're talking to Del Berra. Take me back to growing up and what it was like in the household with a dad like Yogi Berra.
You know, we grew up with his funny sayings. You know, I remember Dad managing the Mets, and me, Larry, and Timmy are watching the game on TV. And all of a sudden, two streakers run out of the stands on TV, and the camera flips away from them. So when he gets home, me, Larry, and Timmy say, "Hey, Dad, those streakers, what were they, boys or girls? We need to know." And Dad looked us right in the eye and said, "I couldn't tell. They had bags over their heads."
In a Mississippi Minute.
Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, CasinoRadio1063.com.
This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Hope you're having a great day. We're having a terrific conversation with Richard Cross from SuperTalk Mississippi Sports and Jeff Duncan of The Athletic. Jeff's here every Friday. Hopefully Richard will join us from time to time and just talk about what's going on. But coming over to you, Richard, for a second, if you have a sandbox, if you have an area that's incredible focus for you, you're really into understanding, especially SEC collegiate baseball, at least at this moment in time. If you think about the year we've had, what stands out to you?
It's another year with incredible baseball in the state of Mississippi, Ricky. You've got Mississippi State, who is projected to be a national seed. You've got Ole Miss, who is projected to be a regional host. The NCAA last week, I guess it was on Friday afternoon, announced the 20 potential host sites for the 16 regionals. You had Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Southern Miss all among that group of 20 teams. Scott Berry's clubs had a nice season as well. They're going to finish either second or third finish third in Conference USA. And with a great run in their tournament, who knows? They could be hosting in Hattiesburg as well. Yeah, this was a unique year because last season was a free season for college baseball players. They didn't count against anybody's eligibility. And so you had some guys that came back that might normally would not have, but more so because the Major League Baseball draft was shortened to just 5 rounds. And so you got normally a bunch of guys that get drafted in the 14th round or the 17th round. They're going to pursue their professional baseball dream. Well, with no draft and nowhere to go, I mean, there's a ton of talent in those 6th through 15th rounds of the Major League Baseball draft, and all those guys are back in college. It's been an incredible season. The SEC is as dominant as ever. LSU kind of stumbled early, but they played themselves back into a spot where, with a good weekend against Texas A&M in the final weekend of the regular season, some success in Hoover at the SEC tournament, they can once again be in an NCAA regional. So you're right. I am incredibly passionate about college baseball. I love it. I love the environments. And I love that in Mississippi per capita, there's not a more passionate group of college baseball fans anywhere in America.
You know, one of the interesting things about me being in New Orleans is I got to understand how Louisiana is kind of unique in the way that it has this one big major university in LSU, and they don't have that interstate rivalry like, they do have it with some other smaller colleges. But when you have Mississippi State and Ole Miss going after each other, and of course you have Southern Miss doing what they're doing, it creates so much fan excitement. But what take would you have on that, Jeff?
Well, little known fact, the first columns I wrote at the Times-Picayune were actually at the College World Series when LSU under Skip Bertman went there in the early 2000s. I was just a regular reporter then, but I got assigned to go up and cover it from a columnist point of view. And that was like my first introduction to the passion and the importance of LSU college baseball, and then LSU, the program that Skip Bertman had built there. Where I came from, University of Louisville is a great example. I mean, when I was in school there, nobody cared about the college baseball team. I was a sports editor at the Cardinal. We hardly covered them. They played at almost like a Little League field on campus. Now, Dan McDonald, former Ole Miss assistant, has come to Louisville, changed their program. They have a beautiful, gleaming facility. They're getting ready to build a new facility up there, indoor facility. They're a top 10 power. And college baseball, that explosion of not just being a kind of a regional sport on the West Coast and in the South, now programs all over the country, like a Louisville, are into it, and it's becoming more and more of a national following, and I think eventually rivaling, say, college basketball on a kind of that national footprint.
It's going to be interesting because you're seeing stands coming back to you're seeing fans pack the stands, so that's going to create so much more of a fun as we get into the college playoffs, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be great. The NCAA, in its infinite wisdom, despite CDC guidelines and updates and full ballparks all over the SEC and other places, has said 50% capacity for the postseason. I'll just not say anything else about the NCAA because that's not going to be good for any of us. But hopefully they revisit that perhaps a little bit, and we are able to get those atmospheres. To Jeff's point about the sport growing, I couldn't agree anymore. And I thought that's why I thought 2 years ago it was such a big deal that Michigan, out of the Big Ten, got to the finals of the College World Series, that you've seen Oregon State in the Pacific Northwest have the success that they've had. This year you've got Pittsburgh, middle of the Eastern Seaboard, a top 20 program. We need that from a college baseball standpoint. Obviously, those of us in the SEC always think that the SEC is going to be best, and I don't see any reason that it won't be. But the more national recognition for college baseball, I think the better off the sport is as a whole.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think until it gets to that level, it's always going to be viewed as something of a regional sport. I mean, if you go out to New York City, you're probably not going to get a lot of college baseball fans in downtown New York. It's more of a college market right now. We need to get to that point, and I think that's coming. You can just see the explosion in all these markets.
It is exciting to see what's happening there. So, Richard, coming back over to you, what closing thought do you have?
I've enjoyed being with you, Ricky. I hope we can do this again soon. I hope Jeff isn't mad that he had to share some time with me today. Certainly have enjoyed this conversation, and appreciate you having me on.
It's been a real pleasure. We lost Jeff right there toward the end, and the timing couldn't have been better if we were going to lose him. And well, I really appreciate you joining me. We'll have you back again. There's during the heat of the moments, there's going to be so many cool things to talk about, and where there's an intersection between what you're doing and what Jeff is doing, we'll get you guys together and let you continue the conversation. So thank you for joining us.
Sounds great. Thanks, Ricky.
Follow SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on Facebook. Facebook.com/SuperTalk MS Coast 103.1.
Hey, South Mississippi.